Okay, we're now going to learn how you pick up a stitch using a crochet hook. Ivy, show us how.
Okay, again we have our drop stitch over here, and we've got our ladder of 2 strands, one on top of the other. And again we're going to take a look and try to see whether we're looking at the front of a knit stitch or the back. We see the bar here, so we know we're looking at the back. I'm going to want to make the bar now go to the other side. So I'm going to take the crochet hook, I'm going to insert it in the stitch front to back. So you see how it's going into the stitch here. And then I'm going to grab the lower of these 2 bars, see? And I'm going to pull it through, and that gives me that V. That shows me that I'm at the front of a stitch. Now I'm at the front of a stitch, I need to pick up one more, but now I want that bar to come forward. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the crochet hook out, I'm going to come around to the other side, move this strand, this ladder, in front of the stitch. Okay, so it's easy to see as much as I can. Okay, and then I'm going to take the crochet hook and come in, back to front. So you can see how I'm addressing the stitch this time. I'm going to grab this strand right here, and I'm going to pull it through. And you can see now the bar is in the front. I'm going to put it back on the needle. Now, just one thing to talk about here is which way the stitch should face when it's on the needle. And this one's actually backwards. If you can see, this leg is forward of this leg, and that's not how it should be on the needle. I have to take it off and twist it so that it's facing the same as all the other stitches. The back leg, the left leg should be forward. If you want an easy way to remember it, think of all those statues in ancient Egypt where the left leg is forward in the statue, left leg should be forward in the stitch. Other thing I wanted to show you again is just to understand your knitting, reading it a little bit. Let's see what we have here. We have the bar, the V, the bar, the V, all the way down. That is what garter stitch is.
Okay, now you have finished your first ball of yarn and you have a product that looks like this. Now you want to know how to add your second ball of yarn, which looks like this. However, we're also going to do it and show it to you with a contrasted color that looks like this. Now, you wanted to explain to the audience about coloring and color matching. Explain.
When yarn is dyed, every batch of yarn takes the dye a little differently. No 2 batches come out perfectly the same. So yarn manufacturers put on their balls of yarn a number, a lot number. When you buy yarn, you want to buy enough for your project and make sure the lot number for all of the skeins match. Even if they look very similar in the balls, they will look different in the project.
And what would happen, per se, if you get a mixed lot, for example? A mixed...
2 different dye lots?
Yeah.
It would look different in the project. The trick to making 2 different dye lots flow together if they're close, you knit 1 row with the first dye lot, 1 row with the second dye lot, 1 row with the first dye lot, and then go back again. And that makes the gradation a little harder to notice.
Okay, so in a second, we're going to show you how to join a ball of yarn with this wonderful contrasting piece so that everyone can see how it's done. Okay, show us how to join a ball of yarn.
Okay, you want to start at the end, and a quick way to tell if you're going to have enough yarn to get across the row, your tail should be longer than 3 times the width of the garment. Now, what you do is you take the tail of your old yarn, the tail of your new yarn, and you put them behind the work hold them in these two fingers just for a little bit of tension. Keep them out of the way. You're going to knit, as you always would, another stitch. So, needle goes in. The yarn going to the ball goes around. Pulls through. Pops off. Now, normally what you would do, the traditional way, is to keep knitting with this yarn, and after about 5 or 6 stitches, it will secure. A trick that I saw from Annie Modisette, the Knitting Heretic, she's got some fantastic knitting books, is that you can go into the second stitch, pick up this tail here, and knit the second stitch with the tail. Then when you do that, this becomes secure right away. The downside is you have this little bit of a float here. So, knitter's choice if you want to go that way or not. But at any point, at this point, your join is made. You have your 2 tails that you can weave in later, and we're going to go into that in the next podcast. And you simply take your yarn and you knit across. Knit. 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 So there's the joining a bow.
We've come to the end of episode 3. We've learned about gauge, what it is and what it means, and how to measure it. We've also learned how you pick up a drop stitch by both using knitting needles and a crochet hook. And we've learned how to join a ball of yarn through the contrasting yarn, which was a really cool idea. Now, next week, we're going to finish the garter stitch scarf. We're going to learn how to bind it off, and we're going to learn how to weave in those ends that you were talking about during the ball addition process. Now, we have about 200 distinct viewers worldwide, and we want to thank everyone for watching, but we haven't had any questions from them. Ivy, how do we hear from them?
You can email me at ivy@knittingstepbystep.com or go to the knittingstepbystep.com website and leave a comment on the blog.
Next week, we finish the scarf. I'm Jason Block, your host.
And I'm Ivy Reisner. Thank you for watching.